Evening, everybody. It's 5:51 on Tuesday afternoon, and this is your closing comment, uh, video number 1633. Okay, so we had all those earnings this morning, and we had a market that got very twitchy about it. There was a problem at the New York Stock Exchange, and so I'm not really sure that I can give you decent comparisons. For example, the Dow was up 104. It was the only one that was up. Um, but it shows as down 319 early. Now, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of trouble early. There were plenty of stocks that were down. Um, Verizon was down on their earnings. 3M was down on their earnings. Travelers was around unchanged. Um, and a lot of these names had problems, but for example, Verizon went from being down $1.40, it looked like it was trading up $5 or $6. Same thing with Wells Fargo, looked like it was trading at wherever it was, and it turned out they were showing on the screen and on the tape that the stock was $5.50 lower. So I'll give you the numbers, but I'm not going to deal with the highs and lows. The NYSE did um, rescind a bunch of trades, but they let some others go. Okay, so as long as I'm mentioning travelers, which this morning I told you would use the write off for their catastrophic loss and then turn around and raise prices for the next 10 years. And pretty much I'm going to guess that's what the market keyed up on, because Travelers was the biggest gainer in the Dow, adding $46 of Dow points to the average. That means that it was up in the neighborhood of $6 after being, as I said, basically unchanged. Um, 3M finished down 6.2%, and it was, let's see, where was it on the hit parade here? 3M was down 51 Dow points. That was the biggest loser in the Dow. Besides that, there really was not a lot of big Dow moves. Although, like I said, 3M down 7 for 6.2%, which is essentially 50 Dow points or so. UNP, Union Pacific, down also over 7%. And on the upside, that I neglected to mention this morning, were two big earnings numbers from Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. Lockheed Martin was up 1.8%, which is okay, nothing overwhelming to high price stock, but RTX, Raytheon, was actually up 3.5%, and it made a new all-time high today. So these things have looked a little wishy-washy because of the talk about debt ceiling and cutting spending and everything. And I think 850 million goes into defense. So those have been down, but they have turned back up again. Okay, the big news after the close, actually, there are a couple of them, but the biggest news was Microsoft, which had closed at 242.04, and that was down a whopping 54 cents. And then the earnings came, and the earnings took the stock as high as 254 and a half. And right now, the stock is trading 242, uh, pardon me, 253, up about $10.40, and um, that will add about 65 or 70 Dow points first thing in the morning, which is essentially to say that you're going to see a lift there. Some of their numbers were impressive, some of them not very impressive. But when you talk about a company this size and expectations were for 30.3 or 30.8 billion for Azure, and it came in at 31 and change. I mean, that doesn't seem like a huge number, but they're big numbers. I mean, this is one of the biggest companies in the world. So not only that, it's also one of the most recognizable. So we had that. We also had Texas Instruments with a beat. It was actually it had closed at 177.04, and it traded both up to 181.90 and down to 171. And right now it's trading 177.43, which is 39 cents over, or 29 cents over where it actually closed. We did see a little bit of carryover into some of the other mega cap stocks. For example, Amazon was 96.32, down $1.20, and after the Microsoft news and their call, which is going on right now, even that's turned back up, 99.62, up 210. So from down $1.20 to up 210. So a $3 swing there. On the downside, we had two. Capital One, uh, which was trading, they had a miss. They were trading 106.51, down 61 cents, traded down to 103 immediately. And the last is 104.50, down 262, or just about 2.5%. And Isrg, a serious high flyer that has come down hard. Um, if you're not aware of what Isrg does, it's called Intuitive Surgical, and they do a lot of the robotic surgeries. Those things tend to be non-life threatening, and so they're somewhat, I don't want to say vanity. I mean, if you need your hip replaced, it's not necessarily vanity, but it's also not an emergency like a trauma. In any event, the stock had closed 257.98 up 2, and when the numbers came out, the numbers weren't overwhelming, but the revenues are down because of COVID for the last, basically 2 years, where people are not going to hospitals unless they absolutely have to. So we closed 257.98 up 2, and immediately turned down on the number to 212, $45 down. The last on it, $45 from the close. The last on it is 235.50, and that's down just short of 21. Okay, futures, kind of interesting. Oil was up, it was down, the entire complex, with the exception of ethanol, was actually down on the day. But, I keep on pointing out what a magnet this $80 area is. And when you see it, you'll see it's still a magnet, even on a down day. Where does it go? 80. 80.13, down $1.49. Right into all of those closes and support that I've been harping on endlessly. Silver was kind of interesting. When I woke up this morning and looked at the silver overnight market, and it was trading up about 40 or 50 cents, I was pleased. By the time the market opened, it had gone all the way back to unchanged, actually slightly lower. I'll show you what it looked like on the intraday chart, because that will show you overnight. So 9 o'clock last night, 9 o'clock this morning, it was all the way back down here. I remember I said that this is an area of support, and sure enough, 23.31 held, and in an hour and a half, it was 23.85 again. Came back down, settled into the same kind of trading range right here, 23.70, 23.75, resistance to support, support to resistance, new high, came back down, came immediately back up, and on the pullback, we're right back there at 27 and three quarters, 27.75, and looked like we were kind of rolling back to the upside. We're along the AGQ, which is the leveraged silver. We paid $1.45 and $1.50 for them yesterday. And they closed, I think, $1.60 or $1.70 yesterday. And today was kind of a quiet inside day, again, right back down to that 23.20 area, and then closing up here at 23.75. And those options, I believe, closed at $1.85 maybe. Let's take a quick look. $1.85, up 15 cents after trading down to $1.35 early. So, kind of a pretty decent day for that position. And as far as the rest of the stuff, Bitcoin down $25. The dollar was down 24 cents. Bonds were up one. And nat gas, as I mentioned, just part of the energy sector, all down. Tomorrow, we are very light on economic news. We have mortgage apps and crude inventories. But again, we have, a mountain of earnings numbers coming out. Let's see, January 24th. Universal Health, IBM, Xylem, which is the company that did the deal. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong page. Earnings, the 24th. Okay, before the open tomorrow. We have Abbott Labs, AT&T, Boeing, Freeport, McMoran, Hess, which has really done well. The NASDAQ itself. And after the close, Ameriprise Financial, CACI, Celestra, CSX, IBM, Lam Research, Lending Club, and Levi Strauss, which is getting a lot of and Las Vegas Sands, pardon me. Las Vegas Sands getting a lot of option play ahead of the number tomorrow. And of course, United Rentals and Tesla. So now you know why I don't just list them, because they are so numerous. All right, everyone. I hope you had a good day. It was interesting, from down 391 to 319 all the way back to up 104. But I remind you, the Dow was the only one that was up. Nothing overwhelming. I mean, down 30 in the NASDAQ, 3 in the S&P, 5 in the Russell, and the big loser, down 119 or 8.82%, were the Dow Jones Transports. All right, everyone.